right, let's talk about WSL. I use this every single day. I pretty much code inside of a WSL powered environment. And I have a bunch of notes on what WSL is and such, but I'm actually going to leave you a link in the description, and you can just go and read these notes if you want to. And the biggest thing I want to talk to you about is the difference between WSL 1 and WSL 2, because if you're going to install, you might see like both versions, and you're like, oh, which one should I use? So long story short, stick with WSL 2. And WSL 1, the only reason people really want to use it is if you need quicker access to the Windows file system from within WSL, but I think the majority of people probably don't need that. The reason first of all, WSL 2 has an entirely different architecture. And like the highest level and the simplest way that I could have displayed it here in this diagram is WSL 1 uses a translation layer. So all the system calls have to go through a translation layer from Linux syscalls to Windows syscalls. So oftentimes with languages, as we know, you'll have different semantics, maybe different syntax, so translation can become tricky. So with WSL 2, the team came around and was like, let's use an actual kernel. Let's create a kernel. Let's open source it. Let's maintain it. So there's actually a Linux kernel. I opened it up here. Microsoft/WSL2-Linux-kernel, which is official Microsoft repo. And that's the actual kernel that powers WSL 2 via virtualization. So it's a utility VM now. It's lightweight, doesn't hog a lot of resources. All your distros live inside of it, and it's powered by a Linux kernel. So no more needing to translate, no more needing to send syscalls to the Windows kernel. So you get 100% syscall compatibility because you're talking, syscalls are talking to a Linux kernel and they understand the same language, right? So stick to WSL 2. WSL 2 will give you quicker local file operations, and we can actually demonstrate that. So if I do something like time sudo apt get install Golang, that's something that I definitely don't have. And we can see how long this takes on this. The left one is WSL 2. It took 6 seconds. And if I do time sudo apt get install Golang on the right, this is WSL 1. Let's see how long this takes. And it has to go and install it, and it's already paused here for whatever reason. But yeah, also Windows Terminal, the new one, if you don't use it, you absolutely should. Like you can have a bunch of different panes if you want it here. So if I wanted to do like, I don't know, Control-Shift-P and then do split pane, and then I can select any, like if I wanted to have the Cloud Shell, if I wanted to PowerShell, I could do PowerShell. Do it split pane on the right. I could have PowerShell here. So you might want to have like your dev box here, your prod box here, your test box here, your SSH to different machines via the same window. I think it's awesome if you wanted to. I don't know really why you would do that, but you could do that. Control-Shift-W to close a pane. I'm going to keep these two open just to see. Like this is already taking way longer. So you can already see the significant speed difference for local operations when using WSL 1 versus WSL 2. Ready? So we'll keep this on the right side. Another cool thing, which I highly recommend, is using something like Docker and dev containers with VS Code. So, do I have Docker running? Let me check. I do have Docker running. Okay, so, looks like it's not finished yet. So what we're going to do is it finishing? I kind of want it to finish, so I don't worry about it. Yes, it's finishing now. I believe so. Okay, it took 1 minute, 21 seconds versus the other one was like, 60 seconds or something like that? So big difference, right? Control-Shift-W. So long story short, use WSL 2. Okay. So now what we're going to do is move into, I don't know, let's do like durable timestamp. So I'm working on this project with durable functions to automatically generate timestamps for my videos. As you all know, I sometimes do really long live streams, and I need these things to be automated for me because it takes me forever to do it. On the left side, you see it says WSL Ubuntu, so it's running inside of WSL Ubuntu, and I'm actually going to reopen this in a container. I'm going to pull Docker up, dashboard, and we can see we've got a container that started 4 seconds ago. So Docker has a great integration with WSL, and we have a container here that uses .NET 7, .NET version, right? 7.0.3 right here. But if you are a .NET developer, you know that it is notoriously cumbersome to work with different versions. If you don't really know which versions you have installed, or if you want to switch versions, things like that, dev containers makes that easy. Makes it seamless, shall I say, right? So this, you can see here, I'm working inside of a container, and the environment, everything that I need installed is here for me. But if I do something like, let's keep that open, right? If I go back here and then I do like make dir project with .NET 6, and then I move into that one, and then I open this in VS Code. You see on the right, there was something quick that says connecting to WSL. There's an extension that connects Visual Studio Code with WSL, and it's called, what is it called? I think it's called like dev environment, or no, I think it's called like remote extensions, remote development. This is here, which contains WSL, it contains dev containers, remote SSH, and remote tunnels, and it's everything, all the extensions that you need to work with Visual Studio Code inside of WSL, right? Alrighty, so like I mentioned, it's like, okay, now I want to create a project that uses .NET 6, which is not the version that I have on WSL. Again, I do .NET - version. The default version that I have is 7. So what I can do here is do Control-Shift-P, dev containers, that extension that I just showed you, add dev container file, and then I can just search for .NET 6, isolated version for me. And this is going to go and create an environment that has everything that I need. It creates a dev container.json file that I'm going to hit reopen in this container. And lovely, this is now going to create the environment inside of Visual Studio Code. So this only exists while I'm in Visual Studio Code, and it probably pulled up another container for me. See, we now have another container here. We can see that this is .NET 6 here, project with .NET 6, and it is running. So Control-J, pull up the terminal, and we know that we are in a Linux environment because we can see Bash. We can see PowerShell, obviously, cross-platforms available there, Cloud Shell, and whatnot there too. So I can do .NET -- version. And we have 6.0.4, you can see here. It's not the default, so obviously we're working within a container and not with whatever's default to my local install, which would be WSL, which is probably easy to get confused with like local as in being your Windows machine, but I'm talking about WSL right now. Okay, cool. But if you're not a .NET developer, like some of you I'm sure are not, we can also create something like a Python project, which I'm not necessarily the best Python developer. Make their project with Python, but let's move into this project as well. And do that should have closed my, and we can see that that container, the Docker image that was running, the .NET 6 one has now stopped. So we only have one running, which is this one that I have in the background, but I can close this as well. And then that will shut down here too. And then as soon as I start this Python one, it'll be back up. Well, another one will be back up, right? Again, so I do Control-Shift-P, dev containers, add dev container, and then I can just type in Python 3. I'm just going to do 3.11. I don't know anything about these versions, so I'm going to let it do its thing, reopen in container. And just to check, that stopped there, but just to check, let's do Python just to see the version that's installed on WSL. Oh, it's not even installed in the first place, so maybe do Python 3. Okay, Python 3 is installed, but I have to use the Python 3 command to invoke it. If I go back to my container, Control-G, now I do Python, and there we go. The version of 3.11.2 works in here. So you can see that the command that didn't work for me in WSL locally does work for me inside of this container because it works inside of what's installed with the container, which was installed via this .json here. And let's write something with Python, but let's just use Copilot because I don't know. I know like the basics. Like if I do like code like hello, obviously I can do hello world. Let's say print. Can I just print? Do I have to use double quotes? Hello world. I don't really know. No, hello world. Okay, does that work? Python 3, hello. Okay, it does work. Okay, so now let's try to use Copilot. Create a variable for my favorite color. Oh, nice. And that was my favorite color too. That is insane. It's probably a very popular favorite color, to be honest. And then we see print the value of my favorite color. It's scary how much this can do. Okay, hold on. Let's do create an array with colors. Okay. Print elements of array. Print all elements of an array. Print color. What? Is it really that easy and just print colors like that? Let's see. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. I gotta switch to Python. It's not that simple with other languages that I've used. Alrighty. So yeah, I think WSL, def containers, VS Code, all these things are awesome technologies that if you have a Windows machine, 100% you should be utilizing. I'll have all the notes and all the resources that you'll need in the description, so be sure to check that out. I'll see you in the next video.